Married but not faithful, my hidden life while he was abroad. If I close my eyes, I can still feel the warmth of Jide's palm the day he boarded the flight to Canada. It was a quiet morning, unusually gentle for a Lagos dawn. He kissed me, whispered that he would make everything better for us, and promised it was just for a while. Our daughter, Adora, was barely 4, clutching her teddy bear and watching the airplanes in fascination. I remember how I smiled and waved until he disappeared through the gate. I remember believing him. But what I didn't know then was that his departure would become the beginning of my fall. Slow, silent, and shameful. This isn't a story of excuses or justification. I'm not writing this to redeem myself or to beg for understanding. I'm writing because silence has become too heavy, and the truth, however late, deserves breath. At first, the silence in the house was unbearable. Jide used to fill the space with laughter, soft humming while shaving, random kisses while cooking havariro, and the way he told stories even while half asleep. After he left, there was only the ticking of the old wall clock and the soft hum of the ceiling fan, soundtracks of my waiting. The video calls helped for a while. He'd smile with that dimple I loved, show me the snow outside his apartment, and promise that the nursing job he got would change our lives. But the hours between those calls were long. I tried to keep busy. Adaora's school runs, my sewing hustle, evening prayers. Still, loneliness is like termites. It eats slowly but steadily, and by the time you notice, the wood has hollowed from the inside. It started innocently, or so I told myself. His name was Kunle, the mechanic who worked on our neighbour's generator. He was always around, always smiling. I remember the first time he helped me carry Adaora's school bag when I was balancing groceries. "Ah, madam, let me assist," he said, his eyes playful but respectful. We spoke briefly, just neighbourly banter, but I began to notice how often he showed up. Then, one afternoon when the sun was harsh and PHCN had blessed us with another blackout, he offered to bring cold sachet water from his shop. "Make you no day suffer," he joked. I laughed, and in that laughter something cracked open inside me. Something I had sealed shut since Jide left. Weeks passed and our chats became longer. He'd sit in the corridor while Adaora napped and we'd talk about politics, the rising cost of Gary, or which Nollywood actors had lost their minds. He was easy to talk to, too easy. I began to feel like myself again, like a woman, not just a mother or wife waiting across oceans. Kunle noticed the little things, when I plaited my hair differently, when I lost weight, when my laughter didn't reach my eyes. He made me feel seen. And that, I realise now, is the most dangerous kind of attention, because when you're starved, even crumbs look like a feast. The first time it happened, it rained. One of those April storms that flooded the compound and drowned the noises of the world. Adaora was at my sister's place for the weekend. The generator had stopped and I was struggling with a candle when Kunle knocked. "Madam, go kill yourself, oh!" He laughed, taking the candle from me. That laugh, it disarmed me. We sat, drank Gary and ground nuts by candlelight, and when the silence fell between us, it wasn't awkward, it was charged. He touched my hand. I didn't pull back. When he leaned in, I didn't resist. That night, I broke my vows with the sound of rain masking my sin. I thought it would be once, just once, a moment of weakness. But lies have a way of multiplying, and once the door was opened, I found it harder to close each time. I told myself Jide would understand if he knew how hard it had been. I convinced myself I was still loyal because my heart still belonged to him, but my body betrayed that claim over and over. Kunle became a fixture. Not just in my compound, but in my bed, my routine, my world. He never asked me to leave Jide. He didn't need to. I was already emotionally split, teetering between guilt and desire. I hid it well. To Jide, I was still the faithful wife. I smiled during our video calls, made excuses for the poor network when I couldn't talk, and even sent pictures of Adaora looking happy and healthy. I became an actress in my own life. At church, I sang louder during worship, gave offerings with trembling hands, and volunteered for women's prayer groups. I thought if I could stack enough good deeds, they'd cancel out my betrayal. But sin doesn't work like math. It stains everything, no matter how many times you scrub. Then came the pregnancy scare. My period delayed for 2 weeks, and I thought my world would collapse. I sat in the bathroom, clutching a test strip, shaking. When it turned out negative, I cried, not out of relief, but shame. That moment made me realize how far I had drifted. I wasn't just cheating. I was gambling everything: my marriage, my daughter's future, my peace. I tried to end things with Kunle. I told him it was a mistake, that I loved my husband. He smiled, that same disarming smile, and said, "I know they force you, but say I make you happy." And he was right. He did. But happiness bought with betrayal has a bitter aftertaste. Things spiraled after that. GD's visa process got delayed, and the distance between us grew wider. Not just physically, but emotionally. He started sounding tired on calls, distracted. He mentioned a new friend, Sandra, a fellow nurse who helped him with cooking. I laughed, pretending not to care, but inside, jealousy boiled. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was angry at the thought of him with someone else, even while sharing my body with another man. Hypocrisy is a quiet disease. It eats your integrity in layers, and by the time you notice, you no longer recognize your reflection. Then came the day I dreaded. GD called and said he was finally coming home, just for 2 weeks, but enough time to see us. My heart dropped. I should have been excited. I should have cleaned the house, braided Adora's hair, and cooked his favourite okra soup. But instead, I panicked. I had to end things with Kunle, for real this time. When I told him, he didn't take it well. "So I be side chick now?" he barked. "After everything we do, you want dump me just like that?" His voice was filled with a bitterness I hadn't heard before. He stormed out. I didn't think much of it. I assumed, like always, he'd get over it. GD arrived on a Friday. He looked leaner, older, but his eyes still had that warmth. Adora screamed when she saw him, running into his arms. He cried, full, shoulder-shaking sobs, and I felt a dagger twist in my chest. How did I betray a man who loved me like that? I tried to act normal. We slept in the same bed, but I couldn't meet his eyes in the dark. Every time he touched me, I felt like screaming. I imagined Kunle's hands, his voice, his breath. Guilt became my shadow, following me into the kitchen, the bathroom, even into church on Sunday. Then on the third day of Jide's visit, everything shattered. We were eating dinner when someone banged on the door. Loud, angry. Jide opened it, and there stood Kunle, drunk, eyes bloodshot, slurring insults. "So this n'other man you dey form loyalty for?" he spat. "Wife, we dey ride me like horse, now dey form holy, holy!" Jide turned to me, confused. What's he saying? But I couldn't speak. My mouth dried, my body frozen. Kunle laughed bitterly and threw something at Jide. It was a bra, mine. "Ask her if she ever stopped sleeping with me since you waka kamot," he roared before stumbling away. Silence, heavy, crushing. Jide looked at me, the betrayal in his eyes louder than any words. Adora was crying. I tried to speak, to explain, but there was no explanation that could wash the filth of my actions. Jide walked out that night. Took Adora with him. He didn't shout, didn't hit me, didn't even say goodbye. The door closed softly, and with it, my life collapsed. I sat on the floor for hours that night, knees curled to my chest, hands pressed to my ears like I could block out the truth if I squeezed hard enough. But it didn't work. Nothing could drown the silence that followed Jide's departure, the kind of silence that doesn't wait for dawn. My house felt like a carcass, empty and rotting with memories. The living room still smelled faintly of the jollof rice I cooked that evening, untouched on the table. Our wedding photo on the wall stared at me, Jide in his cream agbada, me in white lace, both of us beaming with a kind of joy that now felt fraudulent. I wanted to tear it down. I wanted to erase everything, but instead I cried. Deep, guttural cries that scraped my throat and soaked the floor. The kind of cry that only comes when you've destroyed something that can never be rebuilt. The neighbours talked, of course. In Nigeria, nothing stays hidden for long, and scandal spreads faster than fire in dry harmattan. By morning, the entire compound knew. Madam with the fine husband abroad had been spreading her legs for the mechanic. Some stared with pity, others with smug satisfaction. I couldn't leave the house for 3 days. My sister, Amaka, came by, bringing groceries and silence. She didn't judge me, but her eyes did. She watched me shuffle around the house like a ghost and finally said, "You need to beg him, Ngozi. Swallow pride. Crawl if you must." But Jide wasn't answering his phone. Not mine. Not Amaka's. Not even our pastor's. He had vanished into the city with our daughter, leaving only shame behind. It was 3 weeks before he responded to a text. Not a call, a text. 6 words. We are staying with my cousin. That was it. No greeting, no anger, just a flat declaration that cut deeper than any insult. I replied with apologies, long, frantic messages filled with regret, explanations, prayers, and promises. I told him Kunli meant nothing, that it was loneliness, weakness, the devil, anything he'd believe, but he didn't respond. Each time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt, only to crash when it was a bank alert or data promo. I started losing weight. My sewing customers stopped coming. Even the landlord, who used to greet me cheerfully, now just nodded with distant civility. I had become a cautionary tale. I tried to reach out to Kunli, not for comfort but for confrontation. I wanted to scream at him, to ask why he did that, why he humiliated me. But he was gone too. Moved from the area. Someone said he'd travelled to Ibadan. Others whispered he was in hiding after causing wahala for somebody's husband. I hated him. I hated myself more. The betrayal was mine. He was just the tool. I had built the blade and handed it to him, then acted surprised when he used it. In moments of desperation, I even considered calling Jide's mother, but I remembered her stern face at our wedding, how she warned, "Ngozi, my son loves deep. Don't ever wound him." That woman would never forgive me, and I couldn't blame her. The worst part wasn't the shame, it was the absence. The absence of Adaora's laugh, her little footsteps, her morning kisses, her drawings on the wall, her soft voice saying, "Mummy, I want biscuit." The silence of her room was unbearable. I stopped going in, closed the door and left her toys untouched, like a shrine. Sometimes I'd hear her in my sleep, only to wake up to an echo. I wondered if she missed me, if Jide poisoned her mind already, if she'd grow up calling another woman mummy. That thought broke me anew each day. I began to talk to myself, out loud, conversations with her, with God, with my guilt. I'd stand at the mirror and say, "You're a monster," then weep until my legs buckled. 2 months passed before I saw them again. It was a Sunday, and I had forced myself to attend church. Not our usual branch. I couldn't bear the stairs. A new parish, unfamiliar faces. But there they were, sitting 2 rows ahead. Jide in a crisp white shirt, Adaora in a yellow dress, her hair in neat cornrows. I gasped, and the usher beside me turned. I tried to compose myself, but my body trembled. When service ended, I rushed out to the car park, hoping to catch them. I called out, "Jide!" He turned. Our eyes met. Cold. Distant. "Please," I begged, tears already falling. He didn't respond, just opened the door, lifted Adaora into the back seat, and drove off. My hands shook so hard I dropped my Bible. I started writing letters after that. Every week. Not emails, actual letters. I'd pour my heart onto paper, about our memories, my regrets, Adaora's favourite songs, how the curtains still smelled like her hair cream. I sent them through his cousin's office, not knowing if they were ever opened. I even enclosed pictures once, old ones from when we first started dating, and new ones of Adaora's toys still arranged on her shelf. No reply, no reaction. The silence was maddening. I tried to pray, but even God felt far. Like he too had turned his face from me. I considered ending it all. Once I stood on Third Mainland Bridge, watching the water swirl below, but I couldn't jump. Cowardice or hope, I don't know which, held me back. Then, one evening, Jide finally agreed to meet. At a neutral location, a restaurant in Yaba. I dressed simply, no makeup, just a plain Ankara dress and a scarf. When I arrived, he was already there. No hug, no smile, just a curt nod. We sat. The silence between us was suffocating. He spoke first. "Why?" I couldn't answer, not with words that would make sense. I mumbled something about loneliness. He scoffed. "I begged you to be patient. I sacrificed everything, and you," his voice broke, "you gave yourself to another man." I tried to hold his hand. He pulled away. "You killed us, Ngozi. You killed what we had." I begged him to forgive me, for Adaora's sake. He stared at me, eyes wet but angry. "Adaora doesn't even ask for you anymore," he said quietly. "She's forgotten your lullabies." That night, I walked home in the rain. No umbrella, no taxi, just me and the downpour. I didn't care who stared. I deserved every drop, every shiver. I got home soaked and feverish, collapsed on the floor and lay there until morning. Amaka found me the next day, delirious, burning with fever. She took me to the hospital. Malaria, they said, but I knew it was grief. My body punishing me for sins my soul couldn't hide. I stayed in bed for a week, barely eating, barely speaking, just existing. Amaka took my phone and changed the ringtone. "So you won't keep hoping," she said gently, but I still listened for it in my sleep. Months turned into a year. Jide never came back. Adaora never returned. I heard from a distant relative that he moved permanently to Port Harcourt, took up a job in a private clinic there. He enrolled Adaora in a new school. She started ballet. I stalked their photos online, silent scrolls through smiling faces I was no longer part of. One photo broke me completely. Adaora on her birthday, holding a cake, her face joyful. Beside her, a woman I didn't recognize, light-skinned, graceful, with a soft smile. The caption read, Adaora and her second mummy. I stared at that picture for hours, not crying, just hollow. I sold the sewing machine eventually. No customers were coming, and I needed money for food. I started cleaning offices at night, quiet, invisible work. It suited me. The uniform came with a headscarf so no one saw my face. I became a shadow in the city. Once, while scrubbing a toilet in a law firm, I heard two secretaries gossiping about a woman who cheated on her husband abroad. I smiled. It could have been me. Maybe it was. I no longer flinched at shame. I wore it like perfume, faint but always present. And yet every day I still pray, not for reconciliation. I know some things can't be fixed. I pray that Adaora remembers I once held her when she cried, that she forgives me for disappearing from her bedtime, that one day, when she's grown and curious, she'll read my letters and understand. Not excuse, but understand. I pray that Jide finds peace, even if it's not with me. And I pray that Kunle, wherever he is, remembers that a moment of vengeance destroyed an entire home. Because in the end, betrayal isn't just a sin, it's a curse. And I, Ngozi Eze, live under its weight every single day. It's been 3 years now, and I live like a ghost in a city that has already forgotten me. The streets no longer hold the same colour. The markets are just noise. The churches feel hollow. Every face I see is a reminder of what I used to have, what I destroyed. My days follow a ritual of silence. I wake before dawn, light a single candle beside my window, and sit in the stillness. Sometimes I speak to God. Other times I speak to the air, to the echo of my past, to the younger me who once danced in Jide's arms and believed love could conquer anything. I remember the little fights we used to have, over burnt stew, over dirty laundry. How innocent they feel now. If I could return to those days, I'd hold them tighter. I'd worship every moment, even the annoying ones. But time doesn't owe us mercy. It only drags us forward like prisoners in shackles, reminding us that regret is the sharpest kind of blade. I no longer look at myself in mirrors. What's the point? My reflection is not mine anymore. It's a shell, older, sadder, lined with shame. Sometimes I catch a glimpse and I don't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes are sunken, her lips cracked, her hair mostly grey, despite being only in her 30s. I look like someone twice my age. Neighbours barely acknowledge me anymore, and when they do, it's with that guarded politeness reserved for cautionary figures. In their eyes, I'm a warning, a lesson. Don't be like her. Don't ruin your home. The children in the compound no longer greet me like they used to. Some even avoid my corridor. And who can blame them? In Nigeria, a woman who ruins her marriage is worse than a thief. She becomes an exile in her own neighbourhood. Worse still, I agree with them. I deserve the isolation. I deserve the whispers. I deserve the loneliness. I've moved twice since the scandal, each time trying to escape the shadows, but they follow. In Mushin, someone recognised me. Isn't that the woman who... They began, and I left the next morning. In Surulere, it happened again. Now I stay in a one-room flat in a run-down building in Ajege. Nobody knows me here. The roof leaks, the walls are cracked, but it's quiet. And I need the quiet. I work as a cleaner for a small hospital during the day and sometimes help a food vendor in the evenings for extra cash. My hands are always sore, my back always stiff, but at least they keep me too tired to think at night. Thinking is dangerous. It opens doors I try to keep locked. Doors with names like Adaora, Jide, love, hope, forgiveness. Words that now feel like foreign languages. I saw Jide one more time. Just once. It was unplanned. I had gone to the bank to sort out a dormant account when I saw him standing in line. He looked just the same, taller somehow, stronger. There was a calmness in his eyes I didn't remember. He didn't see me at first, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. And then he turned. For a brief second our eyes met. Time froze. My heart stopped. But he blinked, turned back to the teller and walked out without a word. I didn't cry. I just stood there numb. I left the bank without finishing my transaction. What would I have said anyway? Hi, G-Day. I still love you. I still wait for you. I still pray every night that I'll wake up and you'll be home. No, some wounds are better left untouched. Sometimes I write in my journal. It's old and tattered now, but it's all I have. I write letters I'll never send, stories I'll never share, memories I'm afraid I'll forget. I write about Adaora, the way she used to call okra soup, or how she used to pretend to be a teacher with her dolls. I don't know how she looks now. I haven't seen a recent picture in over a year, but in my dreams she's still 5, giggling with missing teeth, asking for bedtime stories. I once tried to reach her through her school, even posed as a relative, trying to deliver a birthday gift, but they refused to help without proof. I left the gift anyway, a pink dress and a note that simply said, "Love, Mummy." I don't know if she got it. I imagine she did. I need to believe she did, because belief is the only thing left. I've accepted that I will probably die alone, and that's not said with self-pity or melodrama. It's just truth. Some sins carve themselves too deeply into the soul to be healed in one lifetime. I know God forgives, at least I've read that he does. But I struggle to forgive myself. What I did wasn't just a mistake, it was a betrayal, a fracture, a wildfire that consumed the people I loved the most. Even if Jide ever forgives me and Adaora one day asks for me, the damage is done. The version of me that was a wife, a mother, a trusted partner, that version is gone. All that's left is a woman learning to breathe in the ruins. Last week I lit a candle for Jide's birthday. I placed it near my window, just like the one we used to blow out together during our early marriage celebrations. I sat in silence for hours, watching the flame flicker against the breeze. I whispered a prayer, one not for reconciliation, but for his happiness. I asked God to bless him, to keep Adaora safe, to protect their home, a home I no longer belong to. And then for the first time in years, I smiled. Not a joyful smile, but a tired one. A smile of acceptance, of surrender, of peace, maybe. So this is my story. Not one of redemption or reunion or grand second chances, just a story of consequences. Of a woman who lost everything for moments of weakness. A woman named Ngozi, who once had a family, a future, and a faith-filled heart, and who now lives in the quiet aftermath of her choices, hoping that someday, somewhere, in a place beyond pain and memory, her daughter will remember the sound of her voice, and maybe, just maybe, whisper "Mummy" again.